Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's a live discussion for Star Trek Discovery Season 5, talking about the entire season as a whole, including that very series finale ending. So we'll start with a spoiler warning that if you haven't seen the entire Season 5, you may not want to watch this. Unless you really like my channel, Brandon. But typically, if you haven't seen all of season 5, yeah, you shouldn't watch this. Otherwise, some things will be spoiled for you. And of course, joined by the usual guest, my sister Alyssa from Alyssa Jane Reviews. Thanks so much for joining.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to talking about season 5 of Discovery. Sadly, the final season of Discovery. When they finally start getting good, then it's over. So,
yeah. All right, so let's start with the overall thoughts of the season. And I will say, I was thinking about this. Well, this is easily my favorite season of Discovery. That's not hard. I think that's very easy. But I was thinking about where it ranks amongst the seasons of Modern Trek, and it's been a while since I've seen most of them, so I can't come up with any definitive answers. I will say that Strange New Worlds is still my number one. Season 1, Strange New Worlds is still my number one. But my number 2 would either be this season or season 3 or 4 of Lower Decks. It's been a while since I've seen season 3 or 4 of Lower Decks, so I can't pin it down, but it's between those three for my number 2. I think I do like them better than Stranger World season 2, and definitely better than any of the crap Picard did, and better than Prodigy as well, and the first 2 seasons of Lower Decks, because it took a little while to get going. But yeah, I don't know. Before go any further, I want to just get your opinion on that, Alyssa. Oh, sorry, you're still muted.
I'm trying that again. This is number 3. Number 2 is Strange New World season 1. Number 1 is Lower Deck season 3.
Okay.
That's my ranking. So I would have this above Lower Deck season 4 slightly. So that's where I would have it. I think easily the best season of Discovery. Far better than anything Picard ever did. I liked it better than the one season of Prodigy. So it's up. I would say number 3.
Oh, I don't know if you heard the news, but we're getting season 2 of Prodigy in July 1st. So just
I did. I a video all about that.
Yeah.
I am aware. We still do not know how we are getting.
No, like how many episodes are they dropping them all at once? Are they dropping them in half and half?
Yeah. I don't know.
Apparently, because of some rights issues, the entire second season dropped in France like last February or something.
Yeah, I remember that happened. I remember.
Yeah. But Norman was saying Strange New Worlds 1, Lower Decks 3, and then Lower Decks 4. And also that he liked season 4 better. Granted, it needed to be condensed. Yeah, but that was kind of a deal breaker for me. The fact that it needed to be condensed and it had too much filler, and it did have some stupid shit I didn't like. And I just feel like this season the pacing was perfect. It was the first season, the only season of Discovery that I can say that about. I think for me personally, I know Alyssa will probably disagree with this, but I feel like it took the first 3 episodes, it took it a while to get going, but they were still good. But once it hit its stride in episode 4, it was just like boom, 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 great episode after great episode. I believe in Alyssa, in your review, you said you didn't give any episode a rating lower than an 8. For me, it was any episode lower than a 7, but that's still good. That is, I think it's still a very solid season. And yeah, I was really surprised that I liked the season of Discovery this much.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that it was, for me, that it took a while to get to the first 3 episodes to get going, but I will say episode 4 is when it got better. Like, that's when it hit its stride. but I gave each of the first three an 8 out of 10. So I can't say that for me that it wasn't getting going. But I do think it hit another level on episode 4 onward.
Yeah, I thought I still liked those 3 episodes, but I was still iffy on the premise, and I still thought they were doing a lot of some of the Discovery pitfalls, such as the spinny camera and stuff. Although they did do the spinny camera for the finale. I don't know if you noticed they had this shot of the Discovery in space, and it was literally like flipping up and down and spinning. I'm like, Jesus Christ! and as you point out, the shaky cam. But yeah.
Just hold the camera still.
But I know that's the style of a certain director, Atunde. Not sure what his last name is.
Yeah.
But he's directing the Section 31 movie too, so we can expect that to spin around a lot as well. And he'll probably direct episodes of Starfleet Academy as well. I personally prefer Jonathan Frakes, personally.
Jonathan Frakes is the top-notch Star Trek director.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So I think because I was really iffy coming into season 5 with the whole Indiana Jones premise, I was like, oh, that sounds silly. But I think what held it, and I still think it was a bit silly, which we'll get into a bit more, but I think what held it together to me was just how good the pacing was, how strong the character stories was, how great the new characters that were introduced this season were. I just think it came together stronger than any other season has, and it does make me kind of bummed that it got canceled right when it got good. It's like it's the Enterprise curse.
Yeah. Although Enterprise season 3 was better than season 4.
Yeah, you and I agree on that, but a lot of people think season 4 was better. But if you count season 3 and 4 together, that's like this show started getting good.
Yeah, it got good. Yeah, and they got canceled.
But anyway, just your overall thoughts on season 5 Discovery.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about a lot of it already. I think the pacing was just on point, and I agree it's the first season of Discovery where they really do get the pacing right. And I had high hopes for it when it was official that there were only 10 episodes, because I think a lot of the issues with previous seasons is they had 13 episodes, they had 15 episodes, and they really only needed 10. And I think that's the biggest issue with season 4, is that should have been maximum 10 episodes. You could make a case for 8 or 9. And
yeah, I would have said 8 would have been a good number for season 4.
I think maximum 10, and it was 13. So that is why, I mean, season 5 clearly better than season 4 because of that reason alone, that the pacing was so much better. And yeah, I think that the episode count is a really big part of that. Yeah, I'm not sure what else to add new to what you said. You mentioned the new characters are great. I thought, yeah, and along with pacing, I think like a good mix of action and also kind of sitting with the characters. I think it had a good balance with that. Yeah, I'm curious. I see Norman in the chat. I'm curious if you still. Norman at one point made a comment that he thought Maul was just as bad as Osiris, and I said, "We're going to have to agree to really disagree." I'm curious if you still think that, because
I may have thought that like a little bit in the first 3 episodes, but once we got into episode 5, they got their back.
He said that about like episode 7 or 8 or something.
Oh, really? Because I remember I was very iffy on them at first.
Yeah, no, he said that like after she was getting good, and it was like, but she's not even really a villain per se. So how can you? I don't know. You have to disagree with that.
Oh, so Norman answered saying Maul is still awful. The only good villain in the entire season is entire series is Lorca.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna disagree with that, but we can agree to disagree. I don't even think Lorca, but
yeah, actually, but outside of season 5, I would agree Lorca's the only good villain. Oh, there was that if you count him as a villain, the Aaron Wright, what was his
Yeah,
name?
yeah.
Tart.
You could call him. I mean, if you want to call him an anti-hero, I think he's more of like
Yeah.
antagonist of the season.
Yeah, he was an antagonist, so I think he's
I
better.
think he's. I mean, I honestly think he might be better than Maul. To be truthful, I think
He might be the best.
yeah.
Oh no, better than them all.
Yeah, or which I think either him or Maul.
Tarka. Yeah,
Yes.
there it is. Yeah.
Yeah. What is Tarka, Lorca? What?
Yeah,
Maul's not named Marca.
I don't know which. Honestly, it's too close for me to call which villain I like better. I think Tarka and Maul are better than Lorca. Personally, I think Lorca's. I hated the reveal he's from the Mirror Universe, and I always hold that against him. I think it would have been so much more interesting if it was just an asshole captain.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to get into that all again. Yeah. I disagree with you on that, but
oh, you do? Oh, okay.
No. We've argued about it many times.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no, I completely disagree with you, but we don't need to argue about season 1 stuff. I think that, I don't know. Lorca was a little mustache twirly. Like, I don't know, especially after the reveal. I did like the reveal, but he becomes very mustache twirly. Not as mustache twirly as Osira. But
well, that's part of why I don't like the reveal, because he turned into a mustache twirly villain.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, he's definitely not the best villain in my full opinion.
Norman is saying Maul and Locke's child should be Maka, I guess.
Maka. But yeah, no, I thought they were great anti-heroes. Really, she was really an anti-hero, not really a villain. I did hear someone, I think it was Sean Barrick on Trek Culture, was complaining about the Breen, like the Locke's uncle, that he was too mustache twirly.
Yeah, I was thinking that a little bit, but it never really bugged me because he was only in like 2
He was
episodes.
only in that one, yeah, he really was only in that one episode.
And the one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was in another episode. But
and he was getting a bit mustache twirly, but then they killed him off. So I was like, okay. Didn't have a problem with that. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump into the season. So I wanted to start with the Indiana Jones. I still think it's more of like a King Arthur type quest. I did have some issues with this, particularly at the start of the season. I think I remember you saying in some of your video or written reviews. Actually, you didn't do videos except at the end. But
in the middle, I did one video in the middle.
Yeah, in the mid-season, yeah. But saying that what was sorry? Remind me. You said something along the lines that as long as they commit to it, then it's worth it. Or
yeah, no, I felt the same way that I felt about the musical episode of Strange New Worlds, which you also disagreed with. Which is do it, like go all in, like just do it, like just go all in on it. And I thought it was great. I thought it was much better than I was expecting it to be. Like I came into this season finding it to be a little iffy. And I know you and I disagree on the test. I liked the tests. I think it made a ton of sense that they would set it up to, in order to find this thing, that you would have to be able to pass these character tests, because they don't want the Breen finding it. They don't want, although they don't really put any fail safes in to prevent the Breen following the people.
I was going to bring that up. Like the Breen almost stole it from them. So
prevent that from happening per se. We didn't think about that. I think it seemed like it was intended for a time in the future when like everybody was good, which was not going to be.
Yeah. I don't know if I mentioned that I can't remember if it was my review of the finale or my review of the whole season, which I hadn't released yet, but I recorded. So I'm getting them mixed up. But I mentioned something about the bigger like tests, rather than doing like riddles and putting triangles together. The bigger test should have been like, is everyone at peace? Are you having war? Like the simple fact that the Breen were attacking them at the moment should have disqualified them. And it's sort of similar to what you were saying before the finale, that it should be similar to the chase where they have to have people of all these different races and species come together in order to get the final thing, rather than her just arranging triangles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did. And Lauren mentioned the triangles too. I did not like the triangles because I don't think it fit in with any of the other tests. Where the other tests were character tests, and this was like a child's puzzle. Like that's not really a character test at all, and that's the final one. So that was dumb. So I do, yeah,
Yeah, but there was also like, and I think the biggest one I had, like the character test, I didn't mind so much, but I think the biggest one I had a problem with at the start of the season, where there was this like riddle that ends episode 3 that Burnham had to solve. And I was just like, what? Why does solving a riddle make you worthy of having this
but
technology?
at the end of the episode is when the character test came in.
Yeah, but they couldn't get to that without the riddle first. They needed to answer the
I'm not
riddle.
worried about that because the main thing was the character test at the end of the episode.
But they never would have gotten to the character test if they got the riddle wrong. They needed to get the
I
riddle
don't
correct.
care. I just don't care about that riddle. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
I don't know. It bothered me.
Test the first out like the big test at the end of the episode that they have to solve the episode and move on to the next episode. Like the riddle was just a throwaway thing at the beginning of the episode. Like I don't really.
Yeah, but why does it need to be there? I don't know. I'm sort of fixated on that.
It probably doesn't. It probably doesn't need to be there. But I don't really care. Like,
I don't know. It bothered me. It felt like, I don't know. I kind of feel like, well, again, similar to the Strange New Worlds musical thing, that if it's a bad premise, it doesn't really matter how much you commit to it; it still remains a bad premise. And not to say that I think that this whole Indiana Jones thing was a bad premise, but I think when it got a bit into the answer me these questions, through when they got to the riddles and shit, is where it kind of lost me. I'm like,
did that one riddle. And it was a throwaway thing in the beginning of the episode. Like it's just not. It's a minor thing. That was not.
Well, there was the triangles too, and I think there were some other examples I'm just not thinking of. But
no, those are the only two that I can think of that didn't really fit in. Anything that was at the climax of the episode, the big thing that you have to solve to get the clue to win the episode, it was always like a good moral test. Except for the triangles.
But what was that one when they were? I can't remember. When Tilly and Burnham went to that planet that was pre-warp. What they have to do to get the clue? I can't even remember.
Tilly was in that. I don't remember. Tilly.
I thought I remembered being kind of trivial, but I don't really remember what it was, so I can't say.
Tilly, well, excuse me. I don't think this is the thing that the scientists planned, but Tilly did have to do the thing where she like couldn't drink any water and run to the tower, and then find out that she was going to die. I don't think that was
but that wasn't. Yeah, wasn't a part of the progenitors thing. And I don't know. This is another thing I brought up is I'm kind of thrown off by the fact that this is seen as a 800-year-old test from the 24th century, but the crew of Discovery is from the 23rd century, and they predated, and so that just throws me for a loop a bit.
Why does that matter? They're in the 32nd century now.
Because they treat it like it's this old ancient test, but it's actually they're older than it is. So it's not really an old ancient test from their perspective.
It is now because they're gotten used to the 32nd century, and the writers are kind of like, let's just pretend they were there.
Well, that is my main point. And it's not like a deal breaker, obviously, because I still love the season. But
I think that's been the case since season 4. Really, since the end of season 3, like at the beginning of season 3, they pretended like they were from the 23rd century, but since then, it's been like that never happened.
I would have just liked more acknowledgement that they were from the 23rd century. I think we got that like a teensy bit when Culber was talking to the hologram of his mother, grandmother. I think it was his grandmother. I think he said Abuela.
Yeah, grandmother, abuela.
Yeah, and I didn't. And it took me like a few moments to realize that. Oh, right, she's dead because he's from the 23rd century. But I just would have liked more sort of acknowledgement. And plus, there's new crew on Discovery now that are from the 32nd century. I just thought it would be interesting if they like related the difference to them and how they relate to each other. I just thought it would be an interesting avenue. It's not a requirement. Like I just thought it would have added
Yeah.
more to it.
I mean, I guess that part doesn't bother me because I've been doing it for 3 seasons and I'm used to it. And just like,
Well, it bothered me last season too. but
it's just like I've accepted that that's what it is, and I don't really care. Like it's what it is now.
Fair enough. But yeah, no. Ultimately, even though I still think it's a little silly. I think that the format actually did really work. Surprisingly, worked very well, and the whole racing against people trying to get the clues and find the big answer and everything. Um, since staying on the topic of the whole quest thing, what did you think about the final solution that they went through all this trouble to get the thing and Burnham's just like, actually, no, let's just toss it away?
I don't know. What else was she gonna do? Like,
keep it?
Yeah, I don't know. That made a lot of sense to me that they're not ready for it. That yeah, I didn't have a problem with it.
Yeah, well, I agree with her decision that definitely weren't ready for it, and I love the conversation she had with Stamets, where Stamets was like really upset and they had to like convince him. I thought that was really good, like really good character stuff. I think this season, as I'm saying, like it's the character stuff that's really pulled the story and made it so great. But it did. Part of me did feel like it was kind of a waste of time to go through all these things to just be like, yeah, let's just throw it away.
No, but they made it so that nobody else can get it, and then
Yeah,
what else can go follow the clues and get to it? Like it's just no one else can reach it.
true. Because if they didn't get to it first, the Mon Locke would have, and they would have given it to Breen because they saw that in the future that happened. The Breen destroyed Starfleet headquarters. So yeah, there was a purpose. They needed to stop the Breen from getting it. True.
Well, Brandon, you and your Doctor Who references. You know, Mark and I don't watch Doctor Who.
um. Yeah, I mean, I was talking most about the Indiana Jones adventure thing. Did you have any more to say about that particular?
No, just that I thought it was better than I expected it to be. Like I was not but I do think it is more of like a King Arthur Holy Grail type of thing.
Yes.
Having an Indiana Jones movie too. So, but
yeah. And I to be clear, I totally agree. It was better than I thought it would be too, and that ultimately did really work for me. I brought up there was Stargate SG-1 in the final season or something did this storyline that was also like a King Arthur thing, but they actually had like King Arthur people in it, and so that was a bit more ridiculous. So comparing that, I think this one was actually much better. There's just a few things that irked me,
yeah.
but
yeah.
But yeah. So let's see what do I have up next. Got a new character with Commander Rayner. He started out as a captain, and then I think it was interesting how they brought him on as the first officer, kind of to replace Saru because Doug Jones was off promoting Hocus Pocus 2 apparently, and couldn't be there.
Hocus Pocus.
Yeah.
Gotta make a living, I guess. Probably.
Yeah, but yeah, Commander Rainier was a surprise. Like I wasn't sure where they were going with him at first. I thought they were gonna make him this antagonist, like um kind of like, oh god, what is it called, Delta Shift in Lower Decks, where they're like, Delta Shift. I thought that he was going to be kind of like a thorn in Burnham's side, and I love that they didn't go in that direction. I think it surprised me that they actually did something totally different. They made him her first officer, and that he went through a really interesting character journey. Where at first he started out as a people were calling him a Lorca type. I called him a Jellicoe type. He kind of reminded me of Jellicoe. It's like, list all your names and hobbies in 15 seconds, go, or something like that. And but they really took him through like a really convincing, well, I thought really effective character story, and they made him like in one season one of the most interesting characters of the show. And I thought the actor, who I've recognized, I've seen him in a bunch of things, Battlestar Galactica, Memento, other things, is a good actor, and I think he added a lot to this role. And that actor usually plays a villain or an asshole, so that's the other thing that surprised me, that he actually ended up being a pretty good guy and having a good character journey. Where at the end he like bonded with the crew. I love that. I think that really worked.
Yeah, I loved this character so much. And I predicted from the beginning, not from the very beginning, but as soon as I knew that he was going to be the first officer, because before that, I thought the same as you, that he was going to be more of an antagonistic thorn on the side type captain. But once they made him the first officer, I predicted that he was going to have a good character arc, and it was better than I expected. And people in that, I think it was that episode 3 maybe, where people were comparing him to Jellicoe because he was very Jellicoe like. But I said even then that I think the big difference between him and Jellicoe was going to be he's going to have good character development, and Jellicoe never got that, like, and never will. Um, and what a really pleasant surprise was the way that they had him really tied into and connected to Tilly a lot, and what great chemistry those two characters have. What good foils they were for each other, and how they pushed each other and helped each other learn. And was not expecting that. I would not have expected Rayner and Tilly to be a good combo, but they almost interacted more than he did with Burnham a lot of the times, other than that episode 4, because Burnham was always leading away teams, which I think you might have mentioned in one of your videos is very TOS of her, always leading away teams. But it allowed Raynor to really bond with Tilly. And I think one of my favorite lines of the season is when when he says to Tilly, I would do anything for you. I would die in the foxhole with you unless you keep doing this like emotional fuzzy warmy crap or whatever it was that he said. But yeah, that was a great line, and I just love that. Um, and I loved the character softened by the end of the season, but he didn't lose his, he didn't lose all of his hardness. He didn't
Yes.
lose what made him as a character. Like that was
Yeah.
still there, but he was able to soften enough to blend in with the Discovery crew. I thought it was just so well done with the writing, with the acting, all the way around was just.
Yeah, no, that was really impressive. I love the bit at the end where was the penultimate episode when he wouldn't sit in the captain's chair, and they were like, "Come on, you can go sit in the chair." And then at the end of the episode, he sits in the chair. It was so like a badass moment. He like taps it, like,
Yeah, yeah, that
and
was.
yeah, and yeah, he got demoted from captain, but he essentially served as the captain because Burnham was always off on away missions and shit, and so he was always in charge. Um, but let's see. In the chat, Brandon is saying, "Is Raynor an elf? He's got the ears for it." Apparently, I thought he was supposed to be like a Vulcan or a Vulcan hybrid type, but Apparently, he's one of these aliens from this episode of Deep Space Nine called Armageddon Game that nobody probably remembers because it was so goddamn mediocre. And in that episode, though, they had these big poofy, goofy hair. I'm like, well, you got to give him the poofy hair if you want him to be the same alien.
Well, in the build up to the season, from all the promos and the previews, that people were saying he was a Romulan. They're like, "Oh, this is the first Romulan captain in Starfleet," and he wasn't.
Oh, right. Yeah, I would have thought Romulan too, but not some random alien. I don't know. I guess it's interesting that Discovery's doing deep cuts like that. Well, I didn't have this planned, but that's the other thing is that they had more of those Easter eggs type thing. It kind of reminded me of Picard season 3, but nowhere near as bad. Like it didn't bother me. Like that whole thing at the end where what's his face Kovic had Geordie's visor and the Cisco's baseball. I'm like, all right.
And Kovic being Daniels.
Yeah. Now, did I remember? Did you say you hated that?
I wouldn't say I hated it, but it definitely was. I mean, Kovic does not have any remote personality of Daniels. Like, he doesn't act like Daniels. He doesn't have the same job as Daniels. He's not Daniels, but it was definitely let's make him Daniels. Like, but he's not, though. They haven't built up to it even a teeny tiny bit. There's no clues, no hints. They just decided to throw it in there to do it little. And so I wouldn't say I hate it. It's a little annoying.
See, I don't know. This is just a wild guess, and I could be totally wrong about this, but I'm thinking that it's possible that that's one of the things they did in the reshoots, and that maybe their original plan was to reveal he was Daniel slowly over season 6. But when they were getting canceled, they're like, fuck it, let's just say he's Daniel. It feels like that. It feels like that.
Yeah, I don't know if there was. That's like a really, I don't know, giving them the benefit of the doubt. And maybe that's true, but regardless, it was definitely just thrown in there and not at all set up for, not even remotely. Like, he does not behave remotely like Daniels.
I'm actually, well, Daniels is a bit goofy because some of the characters in Enterprise were, but I'm actually okay with him being Daniels because he's much older, so he could have, got older more, and the fact that he's all like gruff and seems to have fascination with the past and everything would fit with Daniels. But I do agree that it wasn't built up to it all, and it did seem kind of sudden. But I still don't really have an issue with it. Norman was saying Kovic is Daniels, trumpet, wah wah wah.
Actually, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Oh, right, yeah. Sad trombone, yeah, that's right. And Brandon was saying, if I imagine really, really hard. Yeah, I don't think it was that bad, but that's just me. Oh, and about Raynor, Brandon was saying, I remember the species vaguely, but I don't remember the ears. Well, that's because the big poofy hair was so distracting. That's what you noticed the most. I didn't notice the ears either until I went back and saw pictures of them. I was like, oh, yeah, they did have ears.
Well, 800 years, they changed their hairstyle.
Yeah, they could change hairstyles. That's true. But they would have been more recognizable as that species. Although that would have looked goofy. That hair was so goofy. Very 90s. Really 90s-ish. Anyway, yeah, let's talk the other new characters that had this season was Locke and Mull, who at first I thought were just kind of, to me, I thought they were like kind of silly. Oh, it's bad guys trying to race and they're mercenaries and they're trying to race and get the job done, blah, blah, blah. But that's why I was so surprised when they actually developed their characters more and made them relatable, made them sympathetic, and of course, revealing that Locke was a Breen. Of course, we'll get into the Breen a bit later, but actually showing what, like, hey, that's actually what it, they showed you what the Breen looked like without the helmet before you realized that's what they were doing, which I thought was very clever, and plus giving him a huge backstory of being this monarch or whatever. And having wanting to run away and be with Maul, and so it made them really sympathetic, especially towards the end of the season when Locke died, and then you really sympathize with Maul and her desire to bring him back, and that their love was like, I think they did a good job of saying, of those flashbacks in particular, did a really good job of portraying them as people who really depended on each other and only didn't really care about the rest of the world. And so they got fleshed out to me. They went from two-dimensional mercenary bad guys to fully relatable, fleshed out characters, and I thought this was super impressive.
Yeah, I thought they were really good too. I saw an interview with the guy who played Locke, who was like, he said when they were doing his makeup for him, and he was like, "Wait, what species am I?" And the guy, like, I think it was like one of the guys doing the makeup or something, who like doesn't know anything about anything, just like heard. So I was like, "Oh, I think someone said it's the Breen." And he's like, "The Breen? What? What the first Breen we ever see? What?" Because he's like a hardcore Trekkie.
Yeah.
He knows like all that stuff. He was like, "Holy shit, I'm gonna be a first Breen we ever see on screen." But yeah, I like how they did that reveal. And I mean, I did kind of have an inkling that maybe that could be the case because they kept mentioning the Brain all throughout the season. But I thought it was really cool. And I saw another interview with him like before the season started, where he was like really building up the character development, and he was like, "Oh, wait till episode 5. That's my episode." And so, like, when you were at the beginning, like, "Oh, they suck," blah blah blah, I was like, "Well, I want to wait and see," because he was building it up, and he says they're going to get developed better. Um, and yeah, they did. You do have empathy toward them, and I think even Maul at the end is more of an anti-hero than than a full blown villain.
Yeah. You actually want what's best for her at the end. You don't want her to die. You want her to, yeah.
I think there is one point we disagree on where you said in your review that you thought they should have brought Locke back to life, and I think that it was perfect that they did not. Like, I think it would have been too cliche. They just bring him back again, and like nobody ever dies in Star Trek. And I think it's better for a character. And I know they didn't really follow up on it much, but I think they were planning to in season 6. I think that was going to be her jumping off point for season 6, was having to. I like when characters have to like actually sit with losing their love. I think it's a cheat to have a character bring back the one that they love. I actually initially was really not happy with them bringing back Colbert, because I thought it was a really good character story for Stamets to see how he moves on without Colbert, and how he has to live without the greatest love of his life. I think that's good character development. That's an interesting character story. So I kind of don't like it when they do a cheat and bring a character back. So opposite of you, I actually thought I'm really happy that they kept him dead.
Well, and that's fair. And I knew a lot of people would have that perspective. Which is why when I say that, I was like, when I preference what I was about to say about, I thought they should have brought Locke back, because I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. And I think those are valid points, to be fair. But and maybe I would have been more okay with this if I knew there was going to be a season 6 and that they would have time to explore. Because I agree with what you said about it. It would be good to have Maul have to sit with that and deal with that, but we don't actually see that because the season ends and the show's over. So knowing that the show is over, I kind of wish that they simply gave them a happily ever after. But I do get the impression that they were planning on having Maul as a character in season 6. But yeah, and again, that's not their fault, and that's nobody's fault. That's Paramount's fault for canceling the fucking show because, um, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have that big of an issue with Resurrections. I think it worked for Spock. Um, and I agree with what you said about Colbert initially, but then as the show went on, I was like so glad they brought him back. I just think it was a mistake. They shouldn't have killed him off in the first place.
Yeah, they shouldn't have killed him off in the first place. And I came to feel that way too. And I'm definitely glad we got
Yeah.
Wilson Cruz in season 5. So I eventually got over that. But my initial reaction was kind of anger that they brought him back and where it was kind of felt like a cheat.
Yeah, no, and I get that. Yeah, totally. But I think I felt kind of similar at first too, but then eventually I was like, "Yeah, who cares? He's back, so that's all that matters." And yeah, I just think that would have. I don't know. It's part of because I wanted that, and I think it's the show doing a good job of making Maul relatable, make you want her. That I just instinctively wanted that happy ending for her, especially knowing that the show would be over. Um, but it's not like a big deal, yeah, for me. But yeah, I was also gonna say about the actor who played Locke is that I just finished watching or rewatching season 1 of The Expanse and seeing that that was the same actor. Of course, I already knew this from seeing him without the makeup on, but it was the same actor who played the spy, what Kenzo, I believe, who was spying for Aaron Wright and Earth and almost got Holden team killed. It was weird seeing him back in that role playing such an asshole. And even that same interview, the actor even says, I usually play bad guys, and this is the first time I'm playing a character who's like technically still the bad guy, but he's a lot more relatable and dynamic.
He was also in Discovery season 1 with us.
Yes. Yeah.
The prisoners on Burnham's.
Yeah, I remember that because they had 3 prisoners, and all 3 of them were played by actors who were in The Expanse. But they're both shot in Toronto, so
Yeah.
stuff like that happens. All right. So, well, anything else about Lock and Maul before we move on?
No, I think we can move on.
All right. Well, we brought up the Breen, so let's talk about the Breen. Um, I think this. I don't know if Discovery's really done this before, like taking. And I think some other modern Trek shows might. Well, Strange New Worlds try to do it with the Gorn, but I don't think they really did that good of a job of it. But taking an alien race that's in Star Trek mythology and fleshing them out. Well, Picard did this with the Romulans a bit.
Lower
But
decks with the Packlids.
oh yes, of course, lower decks with the pack. But yeah, taking alien race from Star Trek mythology and fleshing them out more, and the Breen had always been like completely mysterious, and I think I heard the showrunner talking about. Oh, I was trying. No, originally. So I don't know if you heard this, but in the writers' room, apparently there was 2 camps. One that wanted the Breen to be the main villains, and the other that wanted the Vidians from Voyager to be the main villains. And I'm so glad that the Breen won out because the Vidians, like it was shown in like it's the Voyager episode Think Tank that they had their plague was cured. So why would we want to see them again unless they got the phage again 800 years later, which would have been silly. But so I'm glad they went with or just retconned and pretend they weren't and pretend that George from Seinfeld was just lying about them being cured. but either way, I'm actually think the Breen will be much more interesting to explore than the Vidians. And I think although they didn't mention the Tholians at the start of the season, and I thought that I would have liked to see the Tholians more than the Breen, but that's fine. Like what they did with the Breen was like so damn good and fleshing them out more, and it fit. It really fit with what they were being portrayed before, which I think is really impressive to me that they respected Deep Space Nine lore, because they were mostly a Deep Space Nine villain, and it totally fit the way that they have different hierarchies and what they look like without the mask, and that they're apparently what they're. This is the part I was a little confused about. They're like gelatin, sort of, but then they can have the ability to form into a solid form. Is that?
I don't know. The way that there was describing it after that episode, and I don't know if she's right, but she seemed to know what she was talking about, was that um, they, under their helmet, there's that other layer of hiding. Like, so what we see with Locke is who they truly are, but they never show anybody that. They have like two layers. So they would, if they even take off their helmet, the only thing you are usually allowed to see is that gelatinous layer. But it's almost like just, you know, it's just a big no-no. You never like take that all of that off and just have your face be natural like that. That's how she explained it. I don't know where she got that from, but she seemed like she knew what she was talking about. So
They talked about a second skin, so maybe that's what they meant by the second skin. So their natural state is what Locke looked like, but they're supposed to have that gelatinous stuff over them, and it's a no to ever take it off.
Yeah, that's what she said. I don't know if that's correct, but it makes sense. But
that's what she said. But no, that does make sense. I think that does make sense. Because I was gonna say, if they were gelatinous, I was like, didn't they come off as like the changelings or whatever? And they made an alliance with the changelings. But yeah, maybe. But if they had a gelatinous skin, maybe that's why they related to the changelings. I don't know. But anyway, I did think I was really impressed with what they did with the Breen. And yes, Locke's uncle, who I don't even remember his name, did come off as a bit mustache twirly. The other Breen Primarch, who apparently occupied Rainer's world, also came off as a bit mustache twirly, but I don't mind in either case because they were hardly in the show. So if you're gonna have villains who are just there to create a threat, but they're not really the main purpose, like the main purpose was Locke and Mull, then that's fine. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I like this concept of this, like all these different factions vying for the crown or whatever, and it makes me want to know more about how they were like in the 24th century when they were in the Dominion War. Obviously, they didn't have all those different factions, but they have the same power structure. And of course, this is being retconned because Deep Space Nine writers did not think of any of this. This is all coming from the Discovery writers. But now that we have it in canon, like, then I would love for somebody to go, probably in a novel or something. I'll probably never.
Yeah.
I'd love for somebody to go back and fit that into the Breen of the 24th century.
Well, I was gonna say sure, like Lower Decks could cover it, but no, they can't because they're being canceled. God damn it! but if there's ever another show set in that time period, they could touch on it. But yeah, I get the impression that the Breen are a lot more powerful in this 32nd century than they were in the 24th. That they weren't that huge of a superpower, which is one of the main reasons why they made the alliance with the Dominion in order to gain more power. But it seems like that worked pretty well for them. I did have a slight issue with the fact that the Breen ship could destroy Starfleet headquarters so easily. It did make me think, well, that's pretty flimsy of Starfleet headquarters to be threatened by one ship.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like if the Breen really wanted to, they could just wipe out Starfleet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It did make them a little bit too powerful compared to Starfleet. I would agree with that.
Yeah. But I suppose, like, we'll get to the final scenes later, but I suppose that in the final scenes of the finale, they showed Starfleet headquarters is much bigger, so they eventually built it up more.
Yeah, I mean, as a result of the burn, when they first came into the 32nd century, like, they saw that one lone dude in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
Starfleet and the Federation, where it was like pretty much reduced to nothing. So they're building it back up again. So that does make sense. But the fact that the Breen can wipe them off and like
Yeah. Noman's saying Locke's uncle was a one-dimensional villain. I give you my word. Now destroy them and destroy the archive. Yeah, that part of it I didn't really like, but I like the fact that Mole like killed him because well, she didn't kill him, but he got killed because of that. So I don't know. I was ultimately okay with it. It didn't really bother me that much.
I agree. I agree.
And Brandon's saying, why hasn't Starfleet headquarters been destroyed already? Yeah, if it's that vulnerable.
Plus, there's just nobody who cares to. Like, they don't have any real major enemies.
Well, I think maybe the Breen and possibly the Tholians that they mentioned at the start of the season were outliers that were still powerful after the burn. Maybe everyone else was just as weakened as as Starfleet was.
Yeah.
And that's why they were worried about those two races.
Yeah, you know what, Mark? I bet we would have got the Tholians in season 6.
Yeah, god damn it. God damn it. Strange New World should just give up on the Gorn and do the fucking Tholians. They should just do that. But anyway. I think they just don't want to spend the money for the CGI it would take to show them. That's why I don't think they're doing it. That's why, like in Next Generation Deep Space Nine, they always just want. I have a meeting with a Tholian ambassador, but we never actually saw them.
I think your next best hope is Lower Decks, like make an appearance in Lower Decks.
Yeah, because it wouldn't cost them the money, or Prodigy potentially.
Yeah.
The Zindi the reptilian Zindis appeared in Prodigy. So, yeah, no one's saying I still do not buy the entire Dreadnought following Mole because she has a marriage tattoo. I consider that plotline lame. Sorry. I liked it. The Maul taking over. I think it was Norman who said earlier in the chat that thought it would have been better if Maul died and Locke was the one who took over. It would have made more sense. But I think it's more interesting Maul taking over, and I do like the uncle. What's it? I think Brandon said his name. Run. Is that I don't know how to pronounce Ron or whatever. He didn't give a shit about the marriage. He was about to kill her. But then I knew that they were setting up I could tell that the episode was setting up his underlings to kill him. Like they were making that a little obvious the way he was being a dick to them, and they were showing, being like, yeah, I don't know about this guy. He's being a bit of a dick. And that just gave them the excuse they needed. And I think they were just following Maul because of the power vacuum, and the marriage thing does show she has a royal sort of in legal terms. Like the uncle is trying to say, well, it's not legal because you're not a Breen, but really the legal argument could be made that she is by marrying Locke, she is a rightful like royalty person or whatever.
But also, the promise was that she was going to bring their leader back.
Yes,
Locke back, and I think that those dudes wanted to follow Locke over Rune or whatever. Like they didn't like Rune. They, as you said, they were setting up for that. Like they already, there could have very well been a mutiny even without Maul being there. They already did not like him. So this idea that they would want to follow Maul to get to Locke, who they believe is the true leader, and they much more believe in Locke than Rune. 100% makes sense. I had zero problems with this storyline. I thought it made sense to me.
Actually, and I will say why it was actually would be much better, and it was much better that Locke died and not Maul, because if Maul died and they were following Locke, then they wouldn't be so obsessed with bringing Maul back to life. They wouldn't really care.
Yeah, no, the Brain would not. I mean, he would Locke would then have to be ordering them to do that, and they'd be like, "Why do we give a fuck about this?" And
Yeah, and they would. I guess they would want the power, but still, they wouldn't have that motivation that they had with trying to bring Locke back.
yeah. So yeah, I don't think that would have worked. I think this was much better personally.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree, but that is just as we'll have to agree to disagree. All right. So, what else have we got? Saru, Action Saru. I thought that was cool how they kept calling him that. Yeah, off doing Hocus Pocus too, so missed out most of the season. All right, so assuming that is out of their hands, Doug Jones is like, well, I'm not going to be available for to shoot for like the middle of the season. Do you believe what they did with Saru was like they did the best thing they could? And did you like how they handled that?
Um, yeah, for the most part, I did think they could do a little bit more at the end, but when he did come back, but um, honestly, like I didn't. And this is gonna sound terrible, and it's not that I don't love Saru, but I didn't miss him that much because I didn't know where he fit in anymore. As soon as they made Burnham a captain, now there's two captains. Like
Yeah.
when you get your Star Trek 4 issue, Star Trek 5 issue, like when you have
Yes. Yeah.
captains, like which is dumb. Like what are you gonna do with two captains? So you either have to promote him to an admiral and he's gonna be hanging out at Starfleet headquarters, or you make him an ambassador or something like that. So I mean, I mean, I loved Rayner being on there. So and Saru, where does he fit in anymore? So I actually, I mean, this sounds terrible, but I didn't miss him in the season because they didn't need him in this season. Um, Now I did want him to come back. Now if they left him out the whole season, I would have been pissed. But um, they did bring him back at the end. I think I had my expectations for the wedding to be bigger. Like you're gonna do a 20-minute funeral for Ariam, and you can't make the wedding be a little bit more extravagant. I don't know, but and uh, yeah, I don't know. I love the scene where he was just kind of a badass. And he was Action Saru, but I said this in my review that I wish that it hadn't been so easy. Like it just felt like he did the thing and was like, "Oh, I won." Like I guess I was expecting a lot more tension. I thought that what was her name? Brandon said it earlier. Tahal or whatever. Tahal.
Oh, is that the Breen Primarch? Yeah.
Framework. I think she would have been made more sense as an adversary for Rayner at the end, where I didn't really have any adversary so much. They were, I don't know, running from these obscure green ships that you didn't see on the screen that much, and I just didn't really I didn't feel the tension. I know we're getting away from Saru a little bit, but
Yeah.
Saru's scene, like, I thought it was too easy. Like I would have liked it to be a little tougher. Not that I wouldn't have wanted him to do what he did. I just wouldn't have wanted that to be the end of it. But
well, they did send that scout ship out,
yeah.
and they had to destroy that scout ship from the. But it's not really the confrontation that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Norman mentioned Tarina's hair. I didn't notice that until like on Trek Culture, he did a screenshot and showed like, "What's up with her hair?" And I'm like, "You're right, her hair is terrible. You're getting married, and that's your hair."
Yeah. Yeah, with Saru, I think season 4 that they were both captains, right? And they were both like on the then the excuse was I'll be with you for this one mission, but once it's over.
Yeah, but
and
how
then,
dragged it on for so long? Like,
yeah. Yeah, so I actually liked the making him the ambassador, but I actually expected, like, because before I knew that Doug Jones was off doing some other shit, I thought that they were going to make an ongoing storyline that season of being like, this is Saru with what's her name, Tarina. Yeah, Tarina, like have him with her and have the President Rillick, but that actress also wasn't available. But have like a side storyline, like kind of like an Avasarala thing, like The Expanse did. And I thought that would have been a good idea. I would have liked that, and I thought that would be an interesting way to keep Saru as the main character without having getting in Burnham's way. But maybe they would have done that if it wasn't for the fact Doug Jones would rather do press releases for Fergus too.
Yeah,
So,
I kind of thought that too. I kind of thought that they might do that, and I would have liked that too. But it's fine. They didn't.
Saru was her first officer, though. Remember the hands on President kept having her eyes over Burnham. Huh? Oh, the hands-on president. Oh, yeah. In season 4, that's right. Saru's kind of there to keep Burnham in check. They kind of dropped that storyline, but that's okay. Like, what? Oh yeah, what happened to the Vulcan purists? Was it a season 6 coming up? I think the Vulcan purists were kind of just to me they were like, you know, MAGA Republicans, just a radical part of the party, and I think they were just there just for that one storyline to be like, oh, they're gonna have a problem with you marrying a non-Vulcan or non-Navarian or however they say it, but it's like, and I think that's all they were meant. I don't think they ever plan to do anything more with them.
Yeah, and I was not that interested in Vulcan purists anyway.
Yeah. Although I think it made sense that they existed, but yeah, I agree. I wasn't that interested to see any more of them. But yeah, I guess I agree that I think they should have done more with Saru at the end. But ultimately, like, I don't know, I wasn't really that interested in the what's her face, the Primarch, Breen Primarch character figure. So I'm kind of glad that she didn't factor too much into it.
Yeah, but they set it up like she destroyed Raynor's homeworld or whatever. Like it's
yeah, no, I do agree. It would have been nice to have some payoff, but I'm not really sure how they would accomplish that. Like, I guess if she was the one, he disappeared to the other side of the galaxy.
Exactly what I said. Yes, she would be the one that he would disappear to the other side, to the galactic barrier.
But
exactly.
So Discovery can separate its saucer like the Enterprise.
What did I do for? Like, what have we ever seen that before? That's just like I thought Discovery was broken at first. Has it ever been? Am I forgetting when they established that they could do that?
No, you're not. I don't think they ever did. I think they just made that up on that episode. But you know, and that seemed like too easy. I think you said that before. It was too easy of a solution that all they got to do is spore drive them to the other side of the galactic barrier or whatever. But I was like, but whatever. I'm fine. I did like the way that I thought it was an interesting character scene when Raynor came up with the idea until he's like, no, we can't do that. Or can we? And then she called down to Stamets, like, Stamets, can we do this? No, absolutely not. We totally can't do that. Unless I thought that was like interesting character beats to do that. So, all right. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I had Tilly on my outline, but I'm not sure if there's anything more to say about her. And then maybe that's what there is to talk about, is that she really didn't have that much to do this season. And it is interesting that they kind of did the thing with her that I was saying they did with Saru. They were like wanted to bring her back in the show. So they're like, oh, I'm going to join Discovery just for this mission, just so I can be a man. I wonder. Well, I was going to say I wonder what they would have done if there was a season 6, but I think she wouldn't have been in season 6 because she would be in Starfleet Academy show.
I disagree that they didn't give her much to do. I felt like she had lots to do. Like there was a whole episode where she was the star of it. That episode 6.
Yeah, that one episode.
All those interactions with her and Raynor were really good. Like, I thought she was in it a lot, so I don't. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not saying I didn't like her, but I just feel like she wasn't given that much to do other than that one episode. Yeah, she had a few scenes with Rayner, but it didn't seem like she factored in as much as like Colbert or Stamets or some of these other characters.
Like she didn't save the day or anything, but she was there and she was participating and she had a lot of great scenes. So yeah, no, I think she was in it a lot. I think she had a lot to do.
All right, maybe I'm just remembering wrong or something. I don't know. That's just how I looked at it. But did you like her this season? And did you like her inclusion? The fact that they were just like, oh yeah, I'll just take a break from Starfleet Academy and join this mission.
Absolutely, yeah. I think they had to do that, especially with it being the final season. But obviously, they did that before they knew it was the final season, but it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, they might have known it would be her final season. I think they knew
Right.
they were taking her off.
Yeah.
Although that's assuming she's going to be a main character in Starfleet Academy, but
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if she wasn't at this stage.
They're trying to keep it secret, but everybody is. Come on.
I mean, they were kind of setting up. I'm going to start a mentor program. It's like, obviously, this is going to be. Yeah, but yeah, and I did like that one episode where she was a main character, and I did think they used her well. Although my issue with that episode is like people talk in vague terms without saying, "Hey, we're going to sacrifice our lives," until it's time for the audience to know, and then they start like being clear that this is the thing you're winning is actually sacrificing your life.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a contrivance, but still, I still like that episode. All right.
Well, they came in coming in and complaining about the lack of characters, but
okay.
I missed the part where I said I didn't miss Saru because I do agree though he could have been like a side plot like they had in episode 3. But it was hard to fit him in with 2 captains. And like I said, Tilly was not missing. She was very much present. And
I didn't say she was missing. I just thought she was underutilized.
Well, Jake Heyman said that of the 4 original characters, only.
Right.
I don't know if you're counting. Who's the 4th one? Are you counting Ash Tyler, or who are you counting?
Yeah, because I thought the main characters throughout most of the show was Burnham, Saru, Stamets, Tilly. Yeah, that's the main 4, isn't it?
Yeah. So of the main 4, if you count those as the main 4, 3 of them were very much in it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you're talking about Owo and Detmer, but I'm sorry, but they were nothing characters.
Yeah, they are not main characters.
Like the other people that they brought in better than them. I don't know. I don't know. I thought they were better. They were.
I would have liked it better if they were there, because if you're going to have nothing characters, have the nothing characters we already know. But the fact that their actors were off doing other things is like, yeah, who cares? It's like, fine, whatever. It's not that big of a deal. I don't think that really makes a difference.
But they did give Reese more to do in those 2.
Yes.
What did these ever had to do in the whole previous 4 seasons before this?
That's because he was the only one of the bridge crew left. Everyone else is gone. Yeah. And so like, all right, well, let's just have Reese do everything now. Yeah. But I actually liked that. I thought that was really good.
Now, as for Burnham, he's saying now Burnham became the next progenitor. I thought that for a minute when they had that scene, and then I was like, that's too much like Cisco. I don't know.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't have liked that. And plus,
I was thinking that I did want that, but I was like, no, they can't do Cisco again.
No, but my thing is that would give ammunition. Not that I give these people any credence or credit whatsoever, but still make them kind of have somewhat of a point, which they at the moment don't, that Burnham's just a Mary Sue. That, now they're making her this god powerful thing. She has to be such a Mary Sue.
Yeah.
But Not that, yeah, again, not that I give those people any credence, but it would at least fit into that narrative. So I'm actually kind of glad they didn't do that. I think. But were you also kind of? Was it just me? But when they first showed the progenitor arriving, but you couldn't fully see them, were you thinking, "I wonder if this is going to be the same actress who played the female changeling"?
I
I don't
did
know.
second, but then I heard like she's in her 90s, and
Oh, is she okay?
so it kind of makes sense that they wouldn't get her. And also, it's also kind of like, what is there really one progenitor? They got to show that there's at least two of them. So it made sense. But I did think that for a hot minute there, that it's going to be the same one. But in retrospect, like, it makes a lot of sense that they didn't.
All right. Let's see. Hold that thought. Will Ferrell #1. We'll talk about that when we get to the ending. But I have a few other things to talk about first. So there's well, any of the other characters worth mentioning: Colbert, Stamets, Adir, that LGBTQ family, which I love. And I liked it. Like, I've heard some people complain, oh, they didn't really get much to do in the finale, but I thought they did. I thought that we had some really lovely moments between them. I liked when Colbert wanted to go off on that mission. And I actually thought that mission was a good conclusion to his story arc, that he was meant to do something, had kind of like a lost feeling to it, like it was his destiny. But and that Stamets really didn't want him to go, and but they, eventually he's like, let me do this, and it was a nice moment between them. And then we got another nice moment between Adir and Stamets. As I said, a moment where Stamets was really upset and wanted to keep the progenitors technology. And I can't remember what Adair said, but they said something that was along the lines of that made Stamets feel better about it. And so I thought that was a nice moment between them as well. So I actually liked the way these characters were handled this season. I thought they were handled pretty well. My only complaint is what they did with writing Gray out of the show like that. I wasn't the biggest fan of, but I understand that would have been hard to fit Gray into the season. So, but still.
I thought Gray didn't really fit into season 4. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I thought that instead of making him this body and then never doing anything with him, that they should have just like written him off back in season 3, where like when he was or maybe the beginning of season 4, when he's a vision, not a vision, you know what I'm talking about. Only Adira could see him. That eventually, like, that gets cut off and then he's just gone. Like, I don't know, because they gave him made this big deal about giving him this Picard android body, and then don't really do much with him because there really isn't anything to do with him. Like, there's no place for him. He's not in Starfleet. He isn't in Starfleet. He can't be an ambassador or anything like that, like Saru was, or there's no place for him in this show. So I honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, I liked the character, and I loved the relationship that he and Adira had. In fact, I think I put it in my top 10 best romances in Star Trek. But
I didn't like them breaking up. I'm sorry. I just didn't like them breaking up.
I think it was good for Adira. Adira needs to move on. You can't be with your childhood lover for the rest of your life. Like, they need to grow.
It went through so much. Like Adira went through all this heartbreak when he died, and trying to bring him back to life. And I don't know.
Yeah, now they got to move on.
No,
but there was just no place for Gray in the show. So
we'll see.
Really fine.
I kind of feel like I agree with you that if they didn't really have anything to do with Gray, then they should have just killed him off instead of giving him an android body. The fact that they did give him an android body, I think they needed to do something more with him. But that's just
wasn't anything to do, so that was a mistake.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
What are they going to do with him? There's nothing to do.
I agree it was a mistake that they should have just killed him off, but because they didn't, and then they should have done something with him.
Yeah.
But, let's see. Jay Cameron saying that Burnham was already a Mary Sue, or if she was already a Mary Sue, she might as well be one in the end. Yeah, I don't think she's a Mary Sue. was I think there's people online who are still saying that. I know you said if she is, which is fair, but I don't think that she actually is. She's a very flawed character, and I just really disagree with all the people who are like who are still saying that. Most of them haven't really watched past season 2, so
I can saying that after season 2 because it's like, of course, it's got to be about Burnham. And then when
and
people, I will, as much as I dislike the burn solution, it was still better than what people. Oh, it's Burnham. The
oh
burn.
god, yeah, thank God they didn't do that.
I was actually pleased that it wasn't that.
Yeah, I mean the fact that she was the Red Angel, yeah, that was. But here's the thing, and this is what I said this online recently, is that the reason why some people thought that Burnham came off as a bit of a Mary Sue in the first 3 seasons is because they were trying to make her the main character when she wasn't the captain. And it was just so the side effect was that is that she was always like the focus and always the one who resolved the situation. I think that got better when they promoted her to captain. And I think that the Star Trek was just not used to having a main character who's not the captain.
Yeah, yeah,
But even then though, was showed as a very flawed character. Like
yeah,
she almost got everyone killed. Like she almost allowed Control to wipe out all sentient life because she couldn't let Arium die. So I don't know. To me, that's not a Mary Sue.
yeah.
But uh yeah. But yeah, did you didn't really address Stamets or Adira or Colbert?
Yeah, no. And here's and I disagree with Jake Hammond again. I'm sorry. Like you said, Stamets didn't have much to do. Stamets had as much to do this season as he's ever had. Like I thought he was a. I mean, him and Adira were always like solving all the problems. I mean, I love their scenes together. I love there was a one, I forget which episode it was, where Tig Notaro was, what's her name, Reno.
Reno,
Yeah, making a comment about how like they did the thing where they could say the answer simultaneously. They like both say the same thing together, and she's like, "Okay, go ahead, do it again." Like,
yeah.
I thought Stamets and Adira were a great team this season, and then Stamets and Colbert. Again, I think they were one of the best couples in Star Trek.
Oh no, I agree. I think they were in my top 5 when I did couples.
Yeah, and I think that I mean, we haven't talked about this yet, but I didn't love the Colbert like lost storyline where like I was meant to do this, but I also like it didn't hurt anything for me. Like it didn't, but it was just kind of like a thing that was there. That was like, oh, okay, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, they didn't really pay that much attention to it, and I think it was good for what it was, just a side plot. I thought the resolution to it was good. I like that.
Yeah, and I don't think that having centric stories is what defines you, whether you're doing something in the season. Like you can do plenty and not have centric stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one character I did think was underplayed this season and it really bugged me was Zora.
I think. Yeah, I can see that. I didn't really think about it until I saw your review, but yeah, I can see that.
Because they did some great things with her in season 4, and like you're a member of the crew now, and then she acted like a glorified ship's computer for most of this season.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
but maybe they were waiting for season 6. But yeah, so so I wanted to talk about the best episode of the season, and are we in agreement on what that episode is?
If it's any other one than episode 4, then no.
Yeah, it is episode 4. I'm not sure. I might even call it the best the episode of the show, but I'm not positive on that. I would have to think about that one. But yeah, it was like it was a better version of Shattered, and Shattered was already a good episode. And it's just the way that they, and it's amazing to me that they didn't know this would be the final season when they made that episode, because it
Yeah,
was so perfect for a final season that they were able to pay homage to it. It is a shame they couldn't get what's his face for Lorca for one scene, but whatever, it's fine. They did bring back Arium, but yeah, it's but yeah, the way they played Treasury 2, and they touched on all these little things that the show has done, but at the same time is when they really developed Rainer's character. Like the same time they're paying homage to and touching back to what the show used to be and connecting everything together. At the same time, they're building this new character and making him important. I think that's super impressive. And plus, on top of that, I just love the timey-wimey things that they did in this episode.
yeah. And don't forget how they really demonstrated so clearly Burnham's character growth, like more than any other episode. Like, oh yeah, she did used to be like that, and having like her of season 1 self going up against her season 5 self, like it really just demonstrated like, wow, this character has come such a long way. Why do people not like this character? Why do people not like Samika Martin Green? This is amazing. Look at what she did with this character. And like, so those scenes were fantastic. Yeah, and plus everything else you said, how they also were able to. This was the episode that they really developed Rainer, and put in all the timey wimey stuff. And I love what they did with Stamets in this. Don't tell me Stamets didn't have
Exactly, I was about to bring that up.
Don't tell me Stamets didn't have anything to do. Oh gosh, yeah.
They tied it back to the Harry Mudd time loop
Yeah,
episode.
the magic makes the sanest man go mad
Yeah.
episode. Yeah, that Stamets has this ability to kind of exist outside of time, and that Burnham remembered that. She's like, "Oh, we got to find Stamets because
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was so good. That was so good. Yeah, no, I love this episode so much. Whether it's the best of the series. See, my best of the series previously was But to Connect from season 4, which is a very different type of episode. So it's kind of
Yes.
orange
Yeah.
situation. So I don't know. Yeah.
I think But to Connect was my number 2. My number 1 was Project Daedalus. The episode where Arium dies.
Yeah, I know what episode that is. Yeah, that's
The one where Arium dies?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't remember that one?
What do you mean I don't remember that one?
Oh, no. I thought you said you don't remember which one it is.
No, I said I know what one that is.
Oh, you do? Okay.
It's
Right,
like
right.
25 Modern Track. I know what episode
All
that is.
right. All right. Yeah, no, but in
But
case
it
anyone
was,
watches
it's a
that.
little, I don't remember. I had a few in my Modern Track 25. I had at least 2 or 3 episodes above that. I think it was at like number 20 or something for me, 21 or something like that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So it's in like, it would be in my probably top 5 or at least top 10 of Discovery, but it's definitely not my number 1.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was just a great character story for Burnham. I'm still, that's one of my favorite moments of the show. The fact that she almost let everyone die, and it spoke to her character flaw of hanging on and not being able to let go.
But tying it back to this episode that we're talking about, I did like that they brought back Arium. In fact, the whole time I was like, if they don't bring back Arium, then what's the point? I mean, I didn't care that they didn't bring back Lorca or they didn't bring in Pike. Would it have been cool? Sure. But like, it wasn't like one of those people like, I can't believe they didn't bring back Pike or Lorca. Like, it's fine that they didn't bring them back. To me, Arium was the one they had to bring back.
I didn't even think of that until they did bring her back.
Yeah, it was like the whole time I was like, if they don't bring her back, then this is episode.
Didn't even occur to me, but I liked what they did with her, though. I thought that was really
I mean, how do you feel about how Burnham like convinced Ariam? Because a lot of people complained about it, and I see where they're coming from, but ultimately it didn't bother me that much. How Burnham like convinced her by telling her her future, and she was like, "Oh, I believe you." And then so a lot of people were like, "Really? That's what convinced her?"
Yeah, it wasn't the strongest, but I didn't really have any issues with it.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. That's kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah. Um, well, we agree on episode 4. There we go. Jay came in the chat. But yeah, no, I think this is a strong contender for my number one of the show. But I don't know. I have to see. I'll have to watch it again several times. But I do think it is, yeah, easily the best of the season.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, and I liked how they mentioned because obviously it was just there as a plot device, but I like how they mentioned the time spider thingy that caused it was a remnant of the temporal wars. I love the callback to the temporal wars, and it actually makes sense that there would be some still time travel technology
It was
on the
invented
black.
by the Crenum.
Oh, the Crinum, that's right. Yeah.
They tied the Crenum into the Timber Wars. Which makes a lot of sense. But
It
yeah,
does. Although, oh, I guess the temporal wars happened before the burns, so I suppose at this time anyone could travel anywhere in the galaxy. And
yeah, yeah.
I guess in Prodigy they're already doing it. Apparently, Ferengis can go to the Delta Quadrant. I don't know, but anyway.
So Jay came in talking about the Harry Mudd time loop episode. I believe it's called "Magic That Makes the Sanest Man Go Mad." Um, well, I don't know about Mark, but I didn't hate that episode. I didn't. I mean, in general, I didn't like them bringing back Harry Mudd, but that episode was fine. Um, there were elements of it that I liked. Um, didn't love Harry Mudd. Didn't love never really loved the Burnham Ash Tyler romance. So it was fine. This was a million times better.
I
And
actually like the Burnham. I actually like the Burnham and Ash Tyler romance. I actually had that pretty high as well. Obviously not as good as the Burnham and Book romance, which we'll get to. But still, I liked it. A lot of people were very sour on it.
it was fine. It was fine. It was
Yeah.
yeah. So that episode to me is fine. This episode is a lot better.
Oh yeah, easily. But I also liked that episode, so I'm not sure saying that you didn't like that one. I did.
I didn't
I
say I
didn't.
didn't like it.
No, Jay came in '99 saying that you didn't like that one,
Oh yeah, yeah.
which we both seem to like it. So,
Yeah, I
um,
liked it. I don't think it was amazing, but I did like it overall.
yeah, same here. I thought it was probably one of the stronger episodes of season one, but I don't know. I wasn't that strong on season one. But I remember doing this. I think it was several times. Maybe it was just a time loop. We did those live streams where we were doing a countdown with like Don, Willie, and Darren, and we ranked stuff. And Don would always have that like dead last because he hated Discovery.
Yeah, yeah.
Which,
Yeah, yeah, we would go through and each take a turn picking one,
yeah,
and then we would each put our lowest ranked one, and all the discoveries were lowest ranked because
yeah, yeah. I did a time loop one once, and I had this in there, and I think Don was getting ready to be like, okay, so my least favorite, and I think you were in the chat. You're like, Mark, come on, you should know what he's gonna say. Of course, he's gonna say the Discovery episode. But I didn't like Harry Mudd, but it's the other episode he was in that I hated. This one I thought was fine.
yeah,
But
that's
anyway.
brought back.
So yeah, so let's talk about the final scenes of this season, the ones that were probably refilmed and added in there to turn it into a series finale. Well, first of all, do you think that worked? Did you think it made it a good series finale, or did it feel tacked on and not really satisfying?
No, I did think it worked. I did find it satisfying. Actually, I would go so far as to say it might be my favorite part of the episode. So, I'm really pleased that they did that. I think they did well, or as good as they could do, in the situation that they were in. Now, let's remember Enterprise, that finale. Everybody likes to complain about, like that was like, oh shit, we got to throw a finale together real quick, and like they cobbled that thing together. Whereas the episode was already filmed, but it's like, okay, we're gonna transform what we already created into a finale, and that's a tough situation. So, given that, I thought they did as well as they possibly could. I found it satisfying. I found it enjoyable. I really loved it. So that's my stance on it.
Yeah, I think I would also say it was my favorite part of the episode. And I thought, yeah, I thought it was a very satisfying ending. I do hope that because you mentioned Enterprise and this, but then there's lower decks, is that gonna be the same situation? Because it seemed like they already.
Sure. I don't know where they were with the animation and the filming and the voiceovers. Where they, I haven't heard anything about Lower Decks. I don't
Yeah.
know if they had to redo anything, or maybe if they hadn't even gotten to the finale yet, when it was canceled.
Well, I
It
knew
would have
that it was.
written. It would have been written
Yes.
at the very least.
Yeah.
So, at the very least, they would have had to rewrite it. Whether or not they actually ever did some of the animation and some of the voices, and they have to do new things, I don't know. I haven't heard anything.
I mean, I hope that they hadn't started like making it yet, and they were able to actually just rewrite it and make it better. But still, it might feel they might had to like rush to fit it into the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to see. But yeah, no, I think they did. I agree they did as good as a job as they could. I was watching this review that was like really upset and complaining about the fact that none of the main characters other than Book and Burnham had lines in this ending thing, and I think someone in the chat earlier mentioned that yeah, it was Will Ferrell number one that they would have liked to see what happened to Rayner. But yeah, this reviewer was saying, "Oh, this is such a disservice to these characters like Detmer and Owoshkin and well and Stamets and Colbert and how
Sandwich
come."
okay, but Detmer, come on. Yeah, but anyway.
Yeah, but his thing was, well, they never did anything with these characters. And I'm like, well, yeah, so why should they have to do it at the end? But
Yeah.
anyway, but yeah, his complaint is how come we get more of Burnham's son than we do of the actual character we know, blah, blah, blah. And I actually disagree with that very strongly. I don't think we needed to get dialogue from them. I think, and actually having that memory of her like remembering her time on Discovery and like imagine hugging everyone, I actually love that. To me, that was kind of reminiscent of DS9's finale, but actually better, if I'm being honest, than the whole like flashbacks to the goddamn Sinatra music or whatever. Um, that was definitely part of the DS9 finale I liked the least, but it reminded me of that. But I think it worked better, and I didn't mind that it was actually in her head because it was symbolic of her the time, and to me it sort of wrapped everything up that make Discovery feel like a family. um that Discovery didn't really no, I was gonna say it never felt like a family, but it was a perfect way to end the show to really have that connection of the what Brennan will remember most is the time she spent with everyone there, and I think it fit. And I talked before, and I know you've always disagreed with me on this, but I've talked before about how I feel like Discovery's one of his biggest issues is being over sentimental or leaning too much into sentimentality. And I want to make clear, I don't think that's the case here. I think the sentimentality was completely earned. I think it worked. I personally loved it. And plus, like, the fact that none of these characters didn't have any lines and we didn't know what actually happened to them leaves it open for them to do different things with them in
And
the
I
future.
actually didn't like that they said, "Oh, Tilly's the longest tenured Starfleet." I don't want to know anything about it. Just spoil that.
Yeah.
No spoilers. Like I want now that they have to put her on that path in Starfleet Academy. Like I didn't want to know anything like that. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to know a thing about anybody because now that's canon and now you're tied to it. Whereas if they don't, it's open ended and they can do whatever they want with any of these characters at any time in the future. Um, if if you said what happened to Rayner and that, then you're stuck with that in Starfleet Academy. Or otherwise, you could have Rayner come in there and get killed. Now you can do anything with him if you want to.
You can have the Rainer show.
Yeah, forget Star Trek Legacy, Star Trek Rayner, and that's
Yeah.
I mean, do whatever you want now. To me, even though it's just a little thing. I mean, that Tilly becomes the longest tenured teacher at Starfleet Academy. I was like, no, because now that's canon. Now they're stuck with that unless they want to break canon. So that was even the bits that we did get was too much for me. So I am the opposite. I didn't want to know what happens to all of them in the future.
But I was happy with the show with Burnham and Book. I think
Burnham and
it
Book,
was
yes. Burnham and Book,
it,
yes.
because they had a really good character story this season about, and I love how they didn't just hand wave or disregard the fact that of what they went through in season 4 and destroyed the relationship. And I love that they didn't just at the start of season 5 being like, oh, it's all good, we're back together. I love how they took that journey to earn their trust back to each other, and Burnham doing more introspective soul searching, learning that what she was doing wrong. And then they had that ending at Saru's wedding where they had that nice talk by the beach, which was lovely. It tied the season in together. But then these scenes, actually going straight from that to the future where we see them as a happy married couple, I think made it so much better. I think adding that scene wasn't originally supposed to be there, but adding it to it makes the ending so much better that we actually see that they live and have a son. Like during that whole sequence, I was like, I hope she has a son. I want to see her son. And so I was happy when they did.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think the original intent was we're going to get this followed up on in season 6, and they're going to go work for Kovich together and
Yeah.
adventures. But since we're not going to get that, I think it was really actually necessary to show us this, to give them a good conclusion, a good finish. So yeah, I loved it.
And I think it still leaves a lot of the in between vague enough that if you wanted to have Burnham or Book appear in something like Starfleet Academy, you still could.
Yeah.
You just can't kill them all. But that's fine.
Yeah. Well, now if we see anything in Starfleet Academy where Tilly's in danger, like, well, obviously she's.
Yeah, but I think you yourself pointed out that Star Trek is always like that.
Yeah,
anyway.
Star Trek's like that. Yeah, sure.
But what about the Zora reveal? The tying it into Calypso. I know a lot of people had issues with that.
Here's my thing.
Okay.
So they apparently, what they had originally planned, they changed course a long time ago. So they could never do what they originally planned because the show has changed. And again, I don't know. Jessie Gender said this, and I don't know if she's correct. But what she said was that the original plan was for not the whole ship to go into the future, but only the crew, and the ship would just be sitting there waiting for 1,000 years, and that's what that was supposed to be. And I don't know whether that's true or not, but it makes sense. And if that's the case, then that was their original plan, and they went in a completely different direction. So that original plan is gone. So the only possible way that they could tie up Calypso was to retcon it and make it something that doesn't quite fit, because it's the only way they could do it. It's just like with a lot of the answers to questions that they gave in Lost. A lot of people were complaining that they didn't get all the answers, and a lot of people were complaining about some of the answers that they did get because it didn't fit in. because they had changed course. They had changed direction from where they were going to go. In some cases, and Lost, I thought that they would have been better off just not answering the question. Like the big one for me was the Rousseau thing and the Rousseau's origin story and her sickness, that they have gone into a different direction, so it no longer fit, and it fit was so out of place to me that I thought that they shouldn't have actually done it because the show had changed course.
And well, they tried to tie it into the storyline of season 5, but by doing so, had to completely retcon and change what it actually was.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, and here, it didn't bother me, like, because I accept that that's what it was. Like, does it fit? No, but it was never going to. So if you're one of those people like really, really, really wanted to, they must wrap up. And I heard it a lot. They have to wrap up Calypso. We have to get an answer. We have to. If you're saying that and you're complaining, then you're contradicting yourself, because this is the only way they could have possibly done it, is to make it on it and make it something different than what it originally was going to be. So you either like it or you either want to tie in for Calypso or you don't. Like, you can't want to tie in for Calypso but then say it's not good enough because they retconned it, because they always were going to retcon it. So
yeah, so I wasn't one of those people that thought that they definitely they must tie in Calypso, but I personally would rather they resolve Calypso in this way, which, as you mentioned, is probably the only way they really could, than not at all. So I'd rather get this than nothing. So I'm happy with it. Was it rushed and was it out of nowhere? Sure, but it was always going to be.
To me, I could go either way on it. Like, if they had not done it, I actually would be like, yeah, I mean, the ship had sailed already, so what are they going to do? So I wouldn't have been upset. And they did do it, and they retconned it. I also, not a problem. So I think it would have been okay either way.
Yeah. There were people who, do you remember, people had theories about episode 4, that scene with Zora that was like the Calypso took place in her dream or something, and it was like an alternate future or something. But yeah, I wouldn't have liked that. I like this better.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I read an interview with Michelle Paradise, and she was saying that the original plan, that their plan for season 6 was to make a Calypso tie-in. That was going to be, they were already like plotting out season 6, and that would be the main theme of building up to tie it into Calypso. And then when the show got canceled, she said she went to Alex Kurtzman. They were like, oh, well, we don't want to leave any hanging chads. We want to tie this up, so let's make sure we'll just tie this up in this extra scene.
Yeah. Well, in that case, if they were going to do it throughout a season, even though it might not have been what the original plan was, I think that they could have done a really good thing with. But yeah, just trying to. Well, we got to throw this in here.
yeah. With like 5 minutes, like that's the best you can do. Like,
yeah, I was fine with it.
It was kind of like, oh, I heard the name Kraft. It's just like, okay, we get it. Exactly. But no, I'm actually perfectly happy with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I didn't have a big issue with that.
And it is interesting that Alex Kurtzman's instinct was to be like, oh, I don't want to leave anything hanging. I want to tie everything up. Makes him totally different than Damon Lindelof and the Lost Raiders. You don't mind leaving a lot of shit unresolved. But anyway. So yeah, any more final thoughts on this ending?
I don't think so.
All right. So let's move on to the rating. What rating would you give season 5 of Discovery as a whole out of 10?
I already gave it on my review, but I'll
give
it again. I gave it a 9 out of 10. As you mentioned earlier, I did give nothing lower than an 8, and I've never done that with any season of Star Trek ever. Now, to be fair, the older shows, it was all like 25 episodes,
Yeah.
so there's no way that that could possibly happen. But even the Strange New Worlds and the Lower Decks with 10 episodes, there's always been a clunker in there somewhere. So this is the first season of Modern Trek or any Trek that I've given an 8 or higher. However, as I also said in my review, in order for it to get a 10, it would have had to been a 10 finale. Like the finale would have just had to been just like knocked out of the park, and the finale wasn't quite to that level, so it's a 9 instead of a 10. Well, but hard not to give it at least a 9 when I loved every episode of the season. And then it had that great episode 4 in there, which did get a 10. So 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I'm also going to give it a 9 out of 10. Pretty much agree. It was a very, very solid season. It didn't quite get there with a 10. I think, well, for me, I don't know. It is mostly to do with the finale. If the finale had knocked it out of the park, then it could have elevated to 10. The finale wasn't bad. And especially that last ending, it just wasn't like actually liked the penultimate episode better than the finale. Like when they went undercover as Breen, I thought that was amazing. But so I was, yeah, it was not a good sign that the penultimate episode outshined the finale, but it was still good. It was still a solid season, probably, and I agree, one of the most solid seasons of the franchise. But again, it has the advantage over the older Trek shows because it's only 10 episodes. But still, a lot of modern Trek hasn't been able to pull that off. So yeah, also a 9 out of 10. So, yeah, that is it for our discussion of Discovery Season 5. Want to give big thanks to everyone who jumped in the chat. Jake came in at 99. Brandon Norman was here earlier. Will Ferrer, number 1, and a few others who had hopped in. Thank you all for joining, and everyone watching in the archives. Thanks so much for joining. And Alyssa, I know you don't have much going on your channel nowadays, but if you do want to give a shout out to what you're up to.
Actually, I do have a bunch coming up on my channel in the month of June. June is going to be the big month of the year for Alyssa James Reviews. I think I'm going to do 3 things, which is more than I've done all year. I'll make the official announcement soon. I think my live chat with Wine, it's due in June. I said I would do it every 3 months. Tentatively the 22nd, but I'll make an official announcement soon of June. But the other 2 videos that I want to do is I've been really wanting to do a video, a follow-up video on Discovery of 5 ways that I would rewrite Discovery in retrospect to make a better show over the 5 seasons. Like what 5 things that I would do now that we've seen the whole thing, we've seen it to the end. In retrospect, with hindsight is 2020. Like how would I think they would go back and redo it to make it an amazing show? So I've been thinking about this video a lot. So I really want to do it. So that's going to be, I'm not giving a date, but sometime soon, maybe within the next couple days, maybe in the next couple weeks. The other one that I decided I wanted to do, and that I have said previously that there was a chance that I would do this. I've decided I'm going to do it. House of Dragon season 2 prediction video. So that House of Dragon is coming on June 16th, a couple weeks from now. So sometime between now and then, I will get my prediction video up there. My prediction. I'm currently rereading the Fire and Blood, so I at least have to get through the portion of where I think there's a certain place where I think season 2 is going to end. So I have to at least get to that point and then do my prediction videos. So that's going to, so 3 things in June. I may not do 3 more things for the entire rest of the year, but but I do have 3 videos planned in June.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing a House of the Dragon prediction video, but then my heart just wasn't in it anymore. It's not like the old GOT
Yeah,
days.
it isn't, but it's still fun. Like I
Yeah.
wasn't sure if I was going to do it, but then I went and rewatched season 1, and now I'm rereading Fire and Blood, so I'm back kind of into the.
Yeah, yeah.
So like, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm probably
I did predictions for season 1, and it definitely was not the same as doing predictions for Game of Thrones. But
yeah, yeah. I'm probably going to rewatch season 1 and read the books that I think season 2 is going to cover before the show starts. But yeah, so anyway, if you are finding me for the first time, my name is Mark. My channel is Enchantment of Eternity. I got a lot of live streams coming up this month. We'll be seeing Alyssa on here a lot.
I'll be here every Monday. I'll be
Yeah. Every Monday for the next 2 months, basically, be doing a live stream. Next Monday will be my number 10 on my top 25 favorite episodes of Star Trek, which I'm not going to tell you which episode it is yet, but I will shortly. That would be getting into the top 10 now. So that would be next Monday. And then the Monday after, House of the Dragon starts. And so we're going to be here every Monday while House of the Dragon is on to do a live stream on each episode. Also, the reviews will be coming out. I'll be doing a review for House of the Dragon as well. I'm going to try to make my pre-recorded videos short. We'll see how successful I suck at doing that. But that's going to be my aim since I'm going to be doing a live stream as well. And other than that, continuing to cover Next Generation, trying to plow through it as fast as I can. Up to season 5 now of Next Generation. So that's what's going to be going on my channel. Anyway, thank you. Thanks to Alyssa, of course, for joining, and thank you everyone else for joining, and we will see you next time.